Thank you very much for this very generous introduction. Sri Sudhir Kumar Singh ji, President, Indian Dairy Association, Dr. Rahul Saxena, Chairman, Indian Dairy Association North Zone, Dr. Dheer Singh, Director NDRI, Dr. MS Chauhan, Vice Chancellor, Agriculture University Pantnagar, Dr. Ashok Tripathi, Secretary General of this particular Congress, Sri Dr. Sukhbir Singh Maan, all present delegates, distinguished dairy leaders, ladies and gentlemen. Today, it's a great privilege for me to be in present of you to talk about a great leader and son of India, Dr. V Kurien, with whom I had my personal association for considerable time, especially when he had been heading NDDB and made all the contributions about which we are proud today. It is both an honor and a privilege to deliver today Dr. V Kurien Memorial Lecture. I think this is a great opportunity, and I would like to congratulate the organizers for having arranged this lecture in his name to remind us as to what an individual can do for the growth of not only India but for entire society and the resource poor farmers of our country. Dr. Kurien had been a visionary par excellence whose life and work transformed not merely an agricultural subsector but led to significant rural development in India. Dr. Kurien did not simply build a dairy industry, he built institutions, self-confidence, and the dignity among millions of small producers. He turned milk into a movement and producers into owners. Today, as we remember him, the most fitting tribute is not the nostalgia, but an introspection and reimagining of Indian dairy sector for yet faster and sustainable growth. And in fact, that's why the topic of my today's deliberation is reimagining Indian dairying for a sustainable and inclusive growth. I would have talked through PowerPoint presentation or extempore, but many times you cannot reflect your feelings for a great personality like him. So I have chosen to speak through this written paper. Dr. Kurien enduring legacy is that Dr. Kurien genius lay in his clarity of purpose. He believed that farmers, especially smallholders, must control the means of production, processing, and marketing. His insistence on producer ownership, professional management, and political independence became the backrock of the cooperative dairy and cradles of the white revolution in this country, about which we are all proud of. Operation Flood, guided by the philosophy of the Kurien, was not merely a technological or logistical initiative. It represented a profound social revolution, proving that rural India could organize, compete, and succeed on its own terms. His transformation of India from a milk deficient nation into the world's largest milk producer, achieving almost 14-fold increase since our independence, stands as a powerful testament to his enduring vision and leadership. Having had personal association with him, let me confess that he was a great son of India, a great visionary, an excellent administrator, and a constructive critic. He stood against complacency, excessive bureaucracy, and dilution of cooperation values. His values remain relevant even today, perhaps more than ever before. I personally tried to imbibe these while working to strengthen the Indian National Agriculture Research System. Let's now see about Indian dairy today, its achievements and anxieties. India's dairy sector stands as a pillar of the country's agriculture and rural economy. Milk production contributes around 5% to the national GDP, provides livelihood security to over 80 million rural households, and remain one of the most inclusive economic activities in the country, empowering small and marginal farmers, women, and landless laborers. Yet, despite these achievements, there are underlying problems that create stress within the system. These are the productivity per animal remains low, that is around 2.5 to 3 liters per day, which needs to be at least tripled, that is up to 10 liters per day, if we have to achieve our target of 600 million tons by the year 2047. That is the target when we aim to have India as Viksit Bharat. Climate change is affecting fodder availability, animal health, and water resources. Informal markets continue to dominate. Youth participation is invariably declining. That's a major concern. And while women perform a majority of dairy operations, their ownership and decision making power yet remains a challenge. The cooperative sector itself faces challenges of governance, professionalism, and competitiveness in an increasingly liberalized and globalized market. These are not failures, these are signals that the next phase of dairy development cannot be a simple extension of what we had in the past. Business as usual will not help. We shall have to make dairy sector more organized, efficient, and outward looking. We need to think globally and act locally. Next, I would like to talk about from quantity to quality, a necessary transition. For decades, our primary metric of success had been the volume. More milk, more procurement, and more processing capacity. While this focus was necessary in the early years, this also happened when we didn't have food to eat, so we wanted to produce more of food grains. But then now is the time both for dairy sector as well as for food grain sector, where we had green revolution, to think of quality rather than only quantity. Now we have to also see that consumers today are satisfied and they are asking new questions. How safe is my milk? How nutritious it is? How was it produced? what is the environmental footprint of this production? The right answers to these questions will define market competitiveness in the coming decade. Traceability, quality assurance, value addition, and branding will become more important than just procurement volumes and selling as liquid commodity. Branding of the kind of that baby girl we call baby Amul girl with the tagline utterly, butterly, and delicious. The transition calls for investment in science, standards, and skills, areas where institutions like National Dairy Research Institute, many agricultural universities, many dairy colleges in the country now, and the Dairy Association have a critical role to play in this regard. Next, climate change and the dairy dilemma. One of the most pressing challenges before the dairy sector is climate change. Livestock is both a victim of climate stress and at times perceived as a significant contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. The solution to sustainable dairying does not lie in simplistic narratives, but in context specific innovation. India's dairy sector is largely smallholder based, integrated with cropping systems, and embedded in circular rural economies. The distinct structure gives us unique opportunity for low emission and resource efficient dairy systems that are both environmentally sustainable and economically resilient. Climate resilient breeds, improved housing and feeding strategies, better manure management, proper fodder and feed diversification, and energy efficient processing can significantly reduce environmental footprints while improving farmers' income. Our challenge lies in positioning Indian dairying as part of the climate solution, but not as a problem. Next, I would like to talk about women, the invisible pillars of Indian dairying. No decision on dairying can be complete without acknowledging the central and pivotal role of women. Women feed animals, manage milk, maintain hygiene, and ensure continuity of operations, also ensure the nutritional security of the children, often while remaining invisible and unrecognized for their significant contribution towards white revolution and its sustainability. I am convinced that true transformation of the dairy sector will be impossible without recognizing women as farmers, entrepreneurs, and leaders. This would require enabling policy environment, support by the society through access to assets, credit, training, digital tools, and leadership positions within cooperatives and producer organizations, including farmer producer organizations, which is now being taken up on a very large scale. Therefore, empowering women in dairying is not a welfare measure, it is a productivity strategy and a social investment which we must aim while move towards Viksit Bharat. In fact, I would like to just tell you a recent experience I had in my village. I come from also farming family. I had been raising the animals with my mother, and now Even for girls, when we look for boys, they are asking whether the other side have animals because they would not like to prefer the groom where they have to go and collect dung. So that kind of status has come and has to be understood and recognized and required opportunity to be provided. Next, talk technology as an enabler, not a disruptor. Dr. Kurian did make use of technology for the benefit of the smallholders. Digital technologies, artificial intelligence, genomics, and precision livestock farming offer exciting opportunities for dairy sector and disruptive innovations. However, technology must serve the smallholders, a reality of Indian dairying, and convert unorganized sector into more successful and organized small scale dairies, taking advantage of new technologies and their scaling for efficient production and value chain. In fact, still 50% of our production that we have is in the hands of unorganized sector. The goal should not be to replace farmers, but to augment their capabilities through better animal health services, market information, extension delivery, which generally is very weak in the animal husbandry sector, and livestock insurance. Animals generally require because they are costly, and insurance therefore becomes a primary requirement and also can be treated as risk management tool. Next, I will talk about reimagining cooperatives for the 21st century. Perhaps the most important question we must ask today is, and that is before Dr. Kurian, and I think he himself would, how would Dr. Kurian have designed Indian dairy industry if he was to start it today? The answer does not lie in abandoning cooperatives, but in reorienting them, strengthening their governance, ensuring more accountability, attracting professional talent, and restoring much needed trust among members because cooperative movement only could succeed when there was trust and cooperation among the members. This didn't happen in other states other than Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Rajasthan, from where I come. But when it was taken, and that was also a kind of concern for Dr. Kurian that similar initiatives could not take place in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, or UP for that matter, and Bihar. How then we try to move forward? And in that respect, cooperatives must remain producer owned, but they must also be market savvy, innovation driven, and youth friendly, especially women. Without young professionals and young farmers, the future of dairying will be uncertain. What we need now is to improve productivity, profitability, and diversity in dairy products through value addition and export. Export is an area which is maiden area and can be explored in today's context to a greater extent. We hardly have any contribution in terms of export from dairy sector, whereas Small countries like New Zealand, Australia, Brazil are much ahead because of value addition and to be more efficient and competitive. The role of Indian dairy industry and association also must be looked at. The Indian Dairy Association occupies a unique position as a think tank, knowledge platform, professional body, and conscience keeper serving the dairy sector to promote its faster growth and development. In the years ahead, in my view, IDEA can play a pivotal role in shaping evidence based dairy policies, bridging science and practice, which means linking science to society, bridging, building human capital, promoting ethical, efficient, and sustainable dairying, facilitating dialogue across cooperatives, private sector, academia, and the government. In doing so, IDA must be carrying forward the true spirit of Dr. Kurien, not as an icon frozen in history, but as a living philosophy to serve the nation more aggressively. What made Dr. Kurien different? As I reflect on Dr. Kurien's legacy, I must struck by one defining quality: clarity of conviction. He knew exactly what he stood for and never deviated from his principles. He believed deeply that farmers must own the institutions they built, that professionals must manage them, and that politics must never control them. He often reminded us that cooperatives are not meant to be charitable organizations, nor instruments of the state, but business enterprises owned by producers. The clarity was the foundation on which Operation Flood succeeded. And he stood with it, and he was always standing as rock against the pressures that had been all the time coming on him. And that's what we had been sharing from time to time. And that's where I got from him that if you have to do something, you must take risk and proceed further, following the principles of serving the society, not yourself. Dr. Kurian did not romanticize farmers, nor did he underestimate them. He trusted their intelligence, respected their dignity, and built systems that allowed them to compete with the best in the world. That, in my view, is the most enduring contribution that he had made. Personal reflections from a career in agriculture. Having worked for decades across various facets of agriculture and rural development, I have witnessed policies change, priorities shift, and narratives evolve. Few sectors, however, have shown the resilience and inclusiveness of dairying. In times of drought, price volatility, or crop failure, dairy has often become a lifeline of rural livelihood. I would have not got my education if my mother had not animals to raise and had money earned from selling the milk. I have seen firsthand how a regular milk payment, however modest, can provide food security, pay for school fees, and preserve dignity of a household. Yet, I have also seen how institutional fatigue can set in when success is taken for granted. that we are now number one, so nothing to be done. This is where Dr. Kurien's legacy becomes more relevant, not as celebration, but as a caution. Coming finally to my concluding part, carrying the flame forward, which Dr. Kurien had given to us. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Varghese Kurien once said that India's place in the world would be determined by how well it used its own strengths. Indian dairying is one such strength, rooted in millions of households, shaped by cooperation, served by science, and sustained by resilience. For faster growth of dairy sector, greater attention would henceforth be needed in several areas. I am not making it as a technical talk. Many other speakers will be speaking, and many of the uh, participants from dairy sector are aware about those. But intensifying research on use of sex semen, sex embryos of elite animals, use of biotechnological tools to improve productivity and genetic upgradation of our local breeds, achieving higher conception rate using elite bull semen and using genome editing techniques and adopting genome selection approach along with prediction of bull and cow fertility at early calfhood stage. Commercial exploitation of non-bovine milk. This is an area which we have not at all touched so far, but it has great potential for not only diversification in dairy sector in India, but also for export promotion. That is of goat, sheep, camel, and donkey. In view of their medicinal, nutraceutical, vitamin, and micromineral properties, and explore the potential of their export. Improving the indigenous breeds of livestock, cattle, buffalo, goat, that are well adapted to biotic and abiotic stresses, early diagnosis of animal health disorders and their redressal, and developing resilient animal production system and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from the ruminants in particular. Promoting use of high technology based semen quality control tests to ensure quality of frozen semen, developing improved feed and fodder varieties and hybrids for their enhanced use, and effective coordination and convergence between initiatives needed between different ministries. Developing efficient milk production system driven by entrepreneurs and youth with institutional support, streamlining credit facilities with practically no GST on value-added dairy products to make them more affordable for consumers and for export. Doubling the processing capacity from current level of 53.5 million tons to that of at least 100 million tons, build more cold chain facilities and AI infrastructure across the country. In conclusion, I would like to maintain that India has great potential to remain world leader in dairy sector, for which we shall need enabling farmer-oriented policies. We also need to have now an aggressive approach to capture global market through value addition of dairy products, needed diversification of products like export of mozzarella cheese, which is mainly from buffalo milk, whereas we are currently importing, though we are producing maximum of buffalo milk in our country. Reorientation of export policies and export policies that are the long term and the producer-oriented and widening the milk marketing network, potential for which is enormous and has to be exploited. Today, as we honor and commemorate the legacy of this great man, Dr. V Kurien, let us reaffirm our commitment to a dairy sector that is farmer-centric, woman-empowered, climate responsible, globally competitive, and economically viable for the benefit of all. Let us ensure that the next chapter of Indian dairying is written just not in liters of milk, that I believe would be the most meaningful tribute to our legendary Dr. Varghese Kurian, a great son of India who transformed Indian dairy sector and spearheaded the White Revolution as father of White Revolution. So therefore, I would like to place before you one proposition that let us all jointly urge to the decision makers to bestow on this great son of our nation Bharat Ratna, which he richly deserves. Thank you and Jai Hind.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आभार पद्म भूषण डॉक्टर RS परोदा आपके इस व्याख्यान के लिए और डॉक्टर वर्गीस कुरियन के बारे में हमें इतनी जानकारी देने के लिए। आपसे अनुरोध है कि अभी आप मंच पर रहें डॉक्टर साहब।